Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Weekend Wrap. Now, this is a rather fortunate one for myself based on what happened last week, and I've been on a bit of a mixed run recently. Now, I always was a person that always seemed to get the big ones right. Last few weeks, it's been a bit touch and go, but my overall percentages were still quite high, but when it came to like the big ones, it wasn't really hitting the way it was supposed to hit. So luckily this week I'm actually 11 for 11, predicted every fight correctly, and in terms of methods of victory I was 6 and 5. So if we're gonna run through them real quick, the Khalil Cole fight on the before the bell portion of the Matchroom card, I thought he'd get the knockout, but he went to points with his opponent. I haven't actually watched the fight yet, but I heard it was a pretty good fight, so I'm gonna check that one out a little bit later on. I've only woke up about an hour ago, like it was a long night, very long night. Skye Nicolson, I predicted, well, I said it would be a UD, so maybe I can call this one a 7 and 4. I said it could very well be a UD, but don't be surprised if she actually gets her first knockout. So tentatively, I said, well, I think that she could do it. And lo and behold, she almost did. In the 6th round of the contest, when, you know, she got the girl down, pretty much the bell was about to go, so there was no opportunities to follow up. But I was literally watching the screen like, Skye, go through the gears from round 4, round 5. She stepped on the pressure a bit more, Davis would have gone. But ultimately it was a great performance. It was a much improved performance from her second one, and even more improved from the first. So congrats to Skye Nicolson. The next fight was the Rashad Matty fight. Now, I predicted that he was going to go points. He hasn't really shown the same killer instinct as he had in his first couple fights, where he was knocking over just, you know, random journeymen. But this guy, as limited as he may have been, he was, you know, he sort of came to fight. He came to brawl and, you know, scrap and whatnot. So Rashad probably could have stepped on the gas and got him out of there, but he didn't. So my prediction held true there. Now, Austin Amo Williams against what was his name? Booker. Is it Quarto Booker? Something like that. Now, with that one, I thought, you know, the boxing skills of his opponent would basically give him a chance to sort of go the distance, with, you know, Amo possibly like winning the rounds, but maybe not getting the necessary success. Totally wrong. I mean, Amo just done a demolition job, first round knockout, and it was a great display, and he's definitely going to be moving on to bigger and better. You know, the Anthony Fowler fight's still there, so let's hope that Eddie might make that, because, you know, that's a fight he's wanted, that's a fight I want to see. And, you know, the only bad thing about it will be after Amo Williams, you know, lands that beating on him, he's going to be even harder to understand. But, you know, that's something we can take as and when you get onto it. Moving on to the main portion of the card now, Galal Yafai against Jorge Cartagena. This one, I thought, you know, it might. He's been in the game quite a while. Sort of 25 and 6 and 1 record. You know, also from an amateur background as well. So I thought that, you know, there was a possible chance that Galal could end up getting, he could frustrate him and end up getting points. But Galal has just got a relentless work rate. He's got great angles, the way he pivots, the way he shifts his body. His punch selection is his relentless punching as well. Like, it's just, he doesn't give you a break. So unless you're mentally strong and you can punch in between his punches, you're just going to have a long night. And the guy will get out of there in 2 rounds. Now, that being said, Galal needs to keep his chin tucked, and he needs to start working on slipping angles and also being defensively responsible, because he was getting caught in between shots every now and again. He was getting countered. So against punches that are much heavier than Cartagena and his first opponent, whose name I don't remember, that will put him in problems. He's also going to get warned a lot more for pushing people off rather than finding other ways to create space from his opponent. But overall, great performance. He's still building, still working his way into the professionals. So I feel like he'll be, he's going to be good stock moving forward. Now, here's where the start of the streak just flows. Franchon Cruz Dezern against Aline Cederroos. Now, I predicted that this would go the distance because even though Franchon would be landing that overhand right all night, there's mustard on it in the first couple of rounds, but generally speaking, she doesn't appear to hit as hard as maybe that hand looks like she would, because realistically, you hit someone with the amount of shots that she did, busted up the person's face, and Aline, she kept coming forward. She didn't back down. She didn't go into survival mode. It was a really good fun. It was a really good fun fight. And I am, it was a great fight to watch. It was a good precursor to what was about to come. I did predict Franchon to win on points, so yay me. Moving up the card, so we had Jesse Vargas against Liam Beefy Smith. I predicted that Smith would stop him. Smith is just too relentless for someone like Jesse Vargas, who's, if he was a naturally big 154 pounder, his skills and that may have shown a bit more, but he was just allowing himself to kind of get bullied and dominated throughout the sort of the third, fourth round onwards. In the first 2 rounds, he done really well. He controlled the distance. He was making Liam Smith miss. He was sort of knocking his head back between his tight guard. It was a really good showing from him, but it looks like maybe that extra weight, he hasn't been training with it as much. I think he also he contracted COVID towards the start of the year, which is why the fight didn't happen in February like it was supposed to. So I guess maybe all of that might have played a factor, but ultimately, Liam's always going to be too big, too strong, just going to wear him down, lean on him, get into the ropes, rip the body, work the head. It was a pretty, it was a very methodical operation. It was just like a worksman just working, doing his 9 to 5, putting in a bit of overtime, just investing in that body, and it was great to see. So he got the knockout there. Then we get to the main event. Now, slightly, because I predicted it would be a unanimous decision for Katie Taylor, but she made it a little bit harder than she needed to. She always ends up, she loves to get into a scrap, and I did say that would be the biggest chance for Amanda Serrano to be able to get a victory, would be if Katie stands in front of her and just has a tear up, because at that point it's just whoever lands first. You could kind of see that Amanda, I guess, hit harder, pound for pound, out of the two of them, but she was also rocked several times, especially in some of the earlier rounds. Her knees dipped a bit. In some of the later rounds, even her knees dipped. But she had a great 4th and 5th round, whereby she put a beating on Taylor, and only due to Taylor's heart and her grit and her toughness and her willingness not to take a backward step and not to be defeated did she manage to survive that. Her legs stiffened. She couldn't get any bounce in them. She couldn't get any bend. She was just straight upright. But to me, it definitely, some people said, those should have been 10-8 rounds because they were clear dominations. I don't think so, because in both of the rounds, they were both landing a lot of clean shots. Yeah, there was more visible damage to Katie on the shots themselves, but ultimately she was still getting off her work in between that as well. She was still managing to tie up and push Serrano around the ring a little bit as well when she was trying to get her breath. Serrano probably unloaded a bit too much between those rounds, because in the 6th, even though she still kind of won the 6th round, it was you could see that Katie was kind of getting herself back, getting herself composed, and again she was making it competitive to the point where you're not worried about the fight being stopped or anything like that. So it was a decision victory, which I did predict. I know every one of my friends predicted that was going to be Serrano KO or a points decision. So yeah, I'm gonna take that one. Great event, by the way. Madison Square Garden said it was over 19,000 people in there. I mean, it looked full. The noise was raucous. Like, you could feel it through the screen. There was a lot of energy and emotion. Ultimately, that Matchroom put on a great card. From the bottom of the card all the way to the top, it was stacked. Every fight was competitive apart from Ammo Williams' fight. And even, okay, maybe Galal Yafai's fight, but on paper, those should have been competitive. It's just the guys did what they did. But yeah, it was a great night but for them, and that's amped me up even more for next week when it's Dimitri Bivol and Canelo Alvarez. Talking about the if we talk about the Top Rank card real quick, because I didn't see any of it apart from the main event, which is all I really cared about, to be honest. But I predicted that Nico Ali Walsh would get a knockout, which he did. I predicted that Keyshawn Davis would get a knockout. Now, from what I've heard, because I only saw the last round of that fight, where he was sort of landing those double and triple left hooks on the guy, but I heard the match was a little bit trickier than maybe it should have been. But it was a good like learning fight for him. So realistically, I'm happy for him. He got the knockout like I predicted. Now, the only one of like my major fights that I didn't get it right as how I wanted was Valdez and Stevenson, because I did predict that Stevenson would probably get a TKO type victory in around sort of rounds 10, 11, whereby, you know, Valdez has maybe been dropped or he's just taking too much punishment and either the corner decides to throw him out or the ref just says, it's no point, you're not gonna win. He did drop him in the 6th round. It did look at certain times like Valdez was ready to go or was probably, you know, maybe going to get pulled out, but Shakur was, you know, he let off the gas a little bit. I did say, look, it could end up going to decision, but I was expecting that TKO. It didn't, you know, that last round was not great from Shakur, doing the whole showboating, jogging around the ring. Like, we don't pay to see that. Like, look, I know you've banked all the rounds, but if you're going to do that, at least like play keep away in a boxing manner, not, you know, running around the ring, looking up at the clock and gesturing to the crowd. Like, that's not going to get you fans ultimately. And in this day and age, if you want to get fans, like, you need to either produce highlight level knockouts, be in extremely exciting fights, or just be so good that people have to watch you. Now, you're really good. He's a really good boxer, but he's not at that level where people have to watch him yet. And when you do things like that to turn people off, it could get a bit techie, especially when you're in there against someone who people have at least seen is giving their all and you're not. So yeah, that's something for him to work on, like, moving forward. But ultimately, I'm gonna wrap it up real quick. Like I said, 11 for 11, which is, you know, it's been a while since I've done a clean sweep. I'm getting the feeling back, you know, I'm getting back to that analytical brain, more of the hardcore, less of the casual. We'll see where we go for next week. But yeah, ultimately, I am happy with the night. Like I said, I woke up late because it was just a lot to take in. But I'm going to leave that one there. Look out for a couple new episodes dropping probably tomorrow and throughout the week. I think I'm going to do another couple episodes of the Femme Files as well. But that's it for this weekend wrap up, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.